Okay, so we're getting into this podcast world, Glenn.
Yes.
By the way, my name is Jeff Miles, and this is Glenn Johnson. Glenn Johnson has Jabez Financial, and you can check out their website at jabezfinancial.com. Also, this podcast is called the Manumit Podcast. You can find that at themanumitpodcast.com. Make sure you subscribe, like it, get all the episodes. We're going to be giving you tons of advice on, well, I'm not, but Glenn is. He's the professional. I'm just the professional microphone worker thing. I have to know, though, because if people, when they go to your website, like there's an About Me section, and when they go to the website, they're going to see some things that if they're listening to this podcast, they're going to be, I had no idea that he used to play soccer.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Like, this was
okay.
It sounds like you might have been kind of a big deal in the soccer world.
Oh, big fish, small pond. Well, it was growing up. That was once I found a soccer ball. That was it. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I slept with one, and my dad built a soccer goal on my front lawn, and the running joke was like things like, well, my sister can ride a unicycle, but I could kick a soccer ball. She can swing on a trapeze. I can kick a soccer ball. She could do anything, but I could kick a soccer ball. So
you find what you're good at and you go with it, right?
Yeah, well, I loved it. I loved it. And we grew up with a strong patriotic household. And so I always had this dream of, I wanted to play in England, and because my grandfather was from England, actually my grandmother was from England. I'm like, I want to play in England. I want to have America on my shirt. I want to wear number 10 because that was Pele's number.
Pele, yes.
That's right. And because I used to watch highlights videos of his whenever I could see him, and I'd see a trick that he would do. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. But it was so cool to be able to see somebody and then I could emulate it, right?
Yes.
And then I went to play in high school, and my high school team, it was not, we came in last place, okay, dead last. Okay?
Right, okay.
But it was a good group of people. We did win the sportsmanship award.
Awesome.
So we were graceful losers.
But you had teamwork, right?
We did, and I remember my last year of high school, my whole team scored a total of 21 goals for the whole season. And out of those 21 goals, I scored 19 of them, and I assisted the other 2.
Okay, so you were kind of a big deal. Okay, yeah. I got it. All right.
So from there, I got selected as a first team All-State player, and Then I got to represent the United States, and I did play in England, Scotland, and Ireland, and Wales, and it was fantastic.
Glenn, when we started talking about this, you were very humble about maybe a little bit of a maybe small town kind of a thing. No, okay, all state and playing overseas. I think that's kind of a big feather in the cap, right?
Yeah, well, one thing that what's kind of interesting is I think it was 2013. I found out that I could break a Guinness Book World Record kicking a soccer ball.
Get out of here.
No, yeah, I never knew it. I always knew I had a hard kick. I used to practice taking penalty kicks with a medicine ball.
Oh, wow.
And so I had my kick clocked one day when my oldest son was playing, and the guy says, holy cow, I've never seen this before. And so I looked it up, and at the time, the fastest recorded direct kick in World Cup history was held by Cristiano Ronaldo, and he hit 69 miles an hour. Well, I hit 72 with my right leg and 68 with my left. So I contacted Guinness, and they sent me all the paperwork I needed. ESPN was set to cover it on Saturday, and I was just going to work out, train for a week, and then take the kick on Saturday. And, well, wouldn't you know it, that Sunday night, I went to put a dish in the dishwasher. I bent down, and I twisted, and the lower disc of my back exploded.
Oh, man.
Bam, hit the floor. I was out, and ended up getting back surgery about a year later, and so that kick never came to fruition. But well,
you know what though? Listen, I always look at these kinds of situations and I say, hey, listen, it's all for the best, because now you're able to do what you do now, helping people with their financial planning and retirement and all that.
Yeah.
If you had become the next Pele, maybe you and I might not be sitting here talking right now.
Well, that was just 10 years ago.
Okay.
That was in 2014. So but it's interesting. You talk about choosing a career path.
Sure.
Most guidance counselors when they'll talk to a student and say, well, what are you good at and what do you like to do? And then choose a career.
Right.
Well, for me, it was soccer. I was good at it. I liked it, but it wasn't my purpose. And so that's where that wasn't my intended career, because it wasn't my purpose. So your purpose is more in line with something that you hate. You find a doctor find someone that hates disease, they'll become a doctor. You find someone that hates injustice, they'll become a cop or a lawyer.
Well, you don't hate money, do you?
No, but you know what I hate? I hate poverty.
Okay.
And so, because poverty can take a good person and put them in a position where they'll behave in a way that's not in line with their moral compass.
You push it back against the wall, and people are going to start making choices and decisions that maybe they wouldn't in any other normal circumstance. So
that's why. So what led me into finance is because I want to help good people have more resources. Because money is just a multiplier of who we are. It doesn't corrupt anybody. It reveals them. A good person will do more good with more money. A bad person will cause more harm with more money. So that's why I want to help good people have more resources to offset the evil.
That's such a great way to, and I would say motto for what you're doing. And you're absolutely right. We need more good in the world. More money's not going to make you a better person, but a better person's going to make a lot more with what they do with their money.
That's right.
So I love that. So make sure you check out the website, jbezfinancial.com. This is the Manumit podcast. The ManumitPodcast.com is where you can find all of the episodes that we'll be doing. This is kind of like a little behind the scenes with Glenn. And I would guarantee 90% of the people who have come into your office may not know that you are ready to go on ESPN, and you might have ended up with the Guinness World Record.
Yeah. Yep.
And see, now they'll be able to see this on your website, and they'll be like, hey, wait, hold on, Glenn, you didn't tell us all of this. I knew you played soccer, but not to the point of the Guinness World Record. So, and I'm going to have to share this with my son, by the way, because he is a soccer player. We've got a big tournament coming up this weekend.
Great.
And I will tell you that he is in the transition from kind of he's really good at defense, but he's kind of transitioned. The coaches really want to move into more of an offensive type role. And so the thing I think he struggles with, strangely enough, doesn't necessarily have the strongest kick. He's great with everything else, but doesn't necessarily have the strongest kick. So we may have to set up a little web, back and forth so you can maybe drop some hints on him.
I'd be happy to help him with that because there are things he can do. Absolutely.
See, and I had no idea. I played baseball growing up, so I know how to teach him how to do that kind of stuff. But when he wanted to play soccer, I was like, buddy, you're going to have to rely on everyone else because I don't know a whole lot about it. I played a couple of years when I was a kid, and Pele was my favorite player. But
okay, yeah, all right.
But other than that, and I've already we've watched a couple of Pele documentaries, so he's already in that way. But yeah.
Well, you think about it, just like when Bruce Lee had his 1-inch punch.
Yeah.
There's the same thing you can do with a soccer ball also, and how you structure your form, how you structure your whole energy, and the whole point of contact. There's things you can do.
I tell my son, I'm like, son, I know you have it in you, like even genetically speaking through DNA, because I have a half brother who played soccer as a kid, but actually became a place kicker, like a field goal kicker in the NFL. Yep. So he obviously had the big leg. I'm like, son, I promise you've got a big leg in there somewhere. They're not necessarily aesthetically big, but I promise it's in there somewhere. So what else? Tell me more about like what you did after you were doing soccer and all of that, because I know that you are not only you're very community minded, but I know that you're also heavily involved in church and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of the funny thing is I was talking to someone the other day and they said, well, you've done so many different things. It's where do you go with it? I mean, for example, so I went to college for electronic engineering. And that's when I learned that 80% of the millionaires in the United States never went to college. And I realized, well, I don't want to be locked in a cubicle for 40 hours a week for the rest of my life. But I did it because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
But that's when I learned about the world of entrepreneurship. And I thought, that's for me. I want to be the captain of my own ship, and I want to have my own business. And so that's when I started getting mentors and things like that. And I had my first career where I would design window wiper systems for yachts and motorhomes. And
that's impressive. See, you know what? Have you ever seen the movie Big Fish?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you have to watch this movie because it describes a lot of what you're saying. I can relate because I have a lot of the same type of background. So I went to 15 different schools growing up. I played baseball in college, but I also spent time in the military. I was a medic in the Army National Guard. And then, I ended up in radio on a complete accident. It was because I couldn't get hired anywhere else. Like I couldn't get hired at Walmart or at Kroger, or because I was in this tiny little town and all those jobs went to so-and-so's kid because they knew the manager and whatnot when they were coming home from college. So I missed out on all those jobs and ended up in radio on a complete accident. The only thing that made me even think about doing it was my high school English teacher comes to me one day and he says, Jeff, you have a pretty good voice. You should think about getting into radio or television. And I remember looking him dead in the face and I said, I'm playing baseball. And he looked at me with that kind of grin. It's like, we'll see. And, lo and behold, you kind of end up. But, you mentioned purpose earlier, which I thought was great because one of the reasons I kind of left the terrestrial world of radio was because I felt like, yeah, this is fun. People enjoy it. And sure, it's entertaining. But I didn't feel like I was leaving people with anything that day. And as you and I are doing this podcast, this has purpose because sharing with people, someone like you who literally helped them plan how the rest of their life is going to go. I mean, what greater purpose is that?
Well, and that's the thing. It's the application of it. Listening to a podcast such as this or even others, information without application is entertainment.
Yes.
Entertainment has its value. But here what we want to talk about is we want to connect on some points and learn something new and then apply it. That's what wisdom comes in from applied knowledge, not just the accumulation of it. I meet with clients, though, some of them, they have more than one PhD. Right. But you wonder why their life is still a wreck. Yeah. Because they haven't applied any of the life skills. They've got knowledge, but no wisdom.
It's interesting you say that because I know that there are plenty of people out there that they are great at research or thinking about whatever. But if you don't actually go through in the process of making something happen, then how valuable is that research and information?
I lead the men's group for our church, and you started to mention that earlier. On Thursday nights, I have the men at the church come over to my house, and we have a little discussion about how we're going to take God's word and apply it. And one of the questions, how we ended up talking was, say, okay, well, what's something you can specifically do tomorrow that's going to be challenging for you? What's something that you are going to physically do? So that's why it's just not a matter of, all right, I just want to be entertained by this knowledge and the wisdom that I have here. Sure. But are we going to do something that's challenging? So that's going to build our confidence, our self-esteem, our self-image? Or are we just going to pursue a life of comfort and turn into a marshmallow? Right. So that's why when we talk about what are we going to do with it? So we take some of the information or the ideas and concepts that we can talk about like here on the podcast and say, well, what action step am I going to do? Am I going to do something about it? It starts with a phone call. People aren't just knocking down our doors saying, hey, I want to make you more money. Right. People aren't coming over saying, hey, I want to just give you this job. I want to give you this. Nobody's saying, I want to give you anything. We have to knock and then the door will be opened. Right. We have to pick up the phone, make a phone call. We have to take some sort of action step. It's a biblical principle. They say like, God doesn't respond to suffering because if he did, there wouldn't be any. Right. He responds to action. We've got to do something so that our efforts can be blessed. So when we pick up a phone call, we reach out for help. That's kind of like, even if that's why they have suicide hotlines. Right. The person that's in that point of crisis, they still have to pick up the phone and do something. Right. Get the help, get the guidance, get the direction, build the relationships. You want to have more friends, be one.
And if you want to do something right now with your financial future, you can go to the Manumit podcast right now, themanumit.podcast.com, and you can subscribe to it. You can bookmark the page. You can go to jbezfinancial.com and get some information there and schedule an appointment to come see Glenn. I have one question before we wrap up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
In your men's group, and you said, what are you going to do tomorrow that's going to challenge you? What was yours?
This, actually, it was this.
I love it. But still, that's great.
Yes.
You know what? Vulnerability to me is one of the greatest paths to trust. And if you're listening right now and you're like, hey, these guys sound like they're having a fun time and this, that, and the other, just know this is day one.
That's right.
So the best part is, Glenn, it's only going to get better from here. And I thought we've done a pretty decent job today. So
I think so, too. Thank you.
Well done. All right. Well, make sure you do it. Go to his website, jbezfinancial.com. Also, themanumit.podcast.com. Bookmark the website. Please subscribe to the podcast, and we'll share a lot of great knowledge with you as far as your personal finances and hopefully a future that you're not going to have to worry about. Glenn, thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Glenn Johnson Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.